Representation matters, as first ever group of trans attorneys admitted to practice before the Supreme Court. The first ever group of trans attorneys has been admitted to practice before the Supreme Court. On November 30th, 10 members of the National Trans Bar Association from across the country stood before the court as part of the organization's efforts to increase visibility for trans attorneys. In a press release, NTBA Co-Chair Lucas Cameron-Vaughn said, quote, "We put together this group wanting to showcase to the court the spectrum of legal talent that happens to be transgender. The message this will deliver is that attorneys who are transgender are just like every other group of attorneys, talented, dedicated, and working for clients across the nation," end quote. The press release explained that the idea behind asking for admission of this group to the Supreme Court came about after oral arguments during an anti-trans workplace discrimination case, R.G. Harris Funeral Homes versus EEOC, that led to the Supreme Court's landmark decision that anti-LGBTQ+ workplace discrimination is illegal under Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. NTBA Co-Chair Kristen Browde was present during these oral arguments, amidst which Justice Neil Gorsuch said that banning anti-trans discrimination in the workplace would lead to massive social upheaval. The court had no idea that there were at least 6 trans attorneys in the courtroom on that very day. And by the way, do you know what leads to massive social upheaval? Having Trump appoint ultra-conservative justices such as Gorsuch, Barrett, and Bedwetter Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What do y'all think about having representation, trans community, arguing cases at the Supreme Court?
I didn't know that they were not able to begin with. So maybe somebody who's a little bit more knowledgeable in that area. With the trans group of lawyers, what is it because they're the group as opposed to individuals?
It wasn't a prohibition. Right. It was the group increasing the visibility that they represent a group of trans attorneys that are able to argue in certification. You have to be certified to be able to argue in front of the Supreme Court. So it's a visibility issue, not a prohibition issue. It wasn't that
they weren't there.
They weren't there. It's just they're not recognized for what it is, and this increases the visibility of the representation.
I think just a comment as a trans woman. I mean, at least for me, I was so worried about workplace discrimination, which it's getting better, but is still present. So I think that this really, with this increased visibility, shows that transgender people in the workplace are just like everybody else. Like, they have a goal they want to accomplish, they want to be educated, and they're there to do what they're there to do. And so I think my hope is that through this increased visibility, people will just give us a chance and understand that your work life and your personal life have boundaries, and we're there to work just like everybody else.
And that's why I think, and we keep saying it, everyone has said it, visibility. And I will keep saying that visibility, it matters. It also, like I said, it shows stories of success. It shows us outside of what they think trans people should be or what they think that they are. You can be a lawyer, you can be a doctor, you can be an activist, you can be a teacher, you can be whatever you want to be. Because guess what? My transness does not dictate who I am as a person. It just doesn't. My success is not dependent on my transness. My success is dependent on the efforts that I put forth in life.
I think that is a bullseye. One of the things I really love about this story is it says loud and clear, we're not better at the Supreme Court. We are just the same at the Supreme Court. That's all we're asking. And I think broadly the trans community and the LGBTQ community, we must continue to say loudly over and over again that we deserve the same respect that everyone else gets. And we're not asking for special rights. We're asking for the same rights. Yes. And if we have to say that 1,000 times, it's worth saying 1,000 times, because you do not need to fear, because we're not asking for anything more or to take something away from you. And somehow we've allowed the radical religious evangelicals and the radical political, which which Trini makes the point that this is a minority voice in America, but they roar louder than everyone else. We've allowed them to take control of the narrative that they want more. They're taking something away from you. You're going to lose your whiteness in our communities in Ohio. We have to take that narrative back, which I think is very important. And one of the other things that I think is really super interesting in this story is the reference of the Supreme Court decision out of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. It's a reminder to us that I think we should embrace the civil rights movement again. Yeah. LGBT has made gigantic progress, but we're under a new and different kind of attack. And we haven't responded to it very well yet. They knocked us and we wobbled, and we need to steady ourselves a bit. And one of the things that I think is a great place to start is civil rights in the 1960s.
Sure. A march on Washington?
Let's
do it.
and the representation of weight, this minority voice has taken control of the narrative, and we need to first pat it out, and then second, start to, in a reasonable way, start to raise our voices to say, we're just like you. And the vast majority of Americans will respond to that. The vast majority will.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out television network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.